Welcome to Clotheshorse, the podcast that just can't stop ruining things for you. I'm your host, Amanda. Today is part 2 of our conversation with Meredith, a technical designer and all-around expert on fit and sizing. Today we'll be talking about fit models, the fitting process, it's arduous, and most importantly, what is wrong with the extended sizing landscape out there? I mean, they're getting it so wrong. Did you know that only 8% of brands offer extended sizing? But meanwhile, 67% of US women buy plus size clothing. Like, come on, guys. I can't believe you're being so stupid. Before we get into our convo with Meredith, I did kind of want to ruin another thing for you. Faux fur. Yes, that's right. Today I'm going to ruin faux fur for you. It was first introduced on the market in 1929, and early faux furs were made of alpaca hair, which sounds pretty warm and cozy to me. But in general, customers were pretty unhappy with the quality and hand feel. The true modern fake furs, like we know now today, were not developed until the mid-1950s with the introduction of acrylic polymers as replacements for alpaca hair. If you recall from previous episodes, the 1940s and 50s were like the golden era of synthetic fiber research and development. You can already see where this is going, can't you? Like its cousin, vegan leather, aka pleather, faux fur was considered trashy, cheap, unstylish even for years and years. But also, like its buddy, vegan leather, it has enjoyed a never-before-seen increase in popularity in the last decade. Even the highest-end designers like Versace and Gucci, and I mean, they're all out there. Dries, I'm pretty sure, is doing it. They've included it in their lines and runway shows in the past few years. And, of course, it's trickled down into every brand and retailer in one form or another. It's not even seen as something exclusively like cheap, because you can buy faux fur coats that are well over $1,000, probably over $10,000. These coats have a nicer hand feel than, say, the $50 version you can buy at Forever 21, but they're still essentially the same when you get down to brass tacks. And that is, they're made of plastic. Yep, that's right. Faux fur is plastic. Okay, let me drop some science on you. Faux furs are typically made from synthetic polymeric fibers such as acrylic, modacrylic, and or polyester, all of which are essentially forms of plastic. These fibers are made from chemicals derived from coal, air, water, petroleum, and limestone. The raw materials of faux fur begin as plastic pellets that are melted down and then spun into fibers, not unlike cotton candy. In fact, kind of like cotton candy, kind of really a lot like cotton candy, but like a really gross cotton candy. I hope I'm not ruining this taste sensation for anyone right now. You can have as much cotton candy as you want. The fibers are then woven through a fabric backing, which is almost always synthetic as well. So what does this mean? Well, like most plastics, faux fur is not biodegradable. It will sit in a landfill for 1,000 years or more. And this is a good time to point out that scientists don't actually know for certain if plastics break down in 1,000 years because, well, we've only been studying plastics for a few decades. Remember, the middle of the last century was the golden era of developing them, so they haven't even been around for 100 years. So no one has really truly been able to time the process. When you say 1,000 years, you may as well assume eternity because, like I said, no one really knows. If you've ever owned a faux fur coat, then you know it sheds. And what it sheds is tiny little microfibers of plastic because, after all, faux fur is plastic. Well, what happens to these? They make their way to the ocean via wind, rain, sewers, and rivers. Even more plastic in our ocean. And maybe you're thinking, oh, it's just one little faux fur coat. Like, what's the big deal? Sure. Your individual coat may not seem like a huge problem, but now think of the millions of faux fur coats that have been made in the last decade. Are you picturing them? It's a pretty big pile, right? Go back to another decade. Go back another decade. So now we're looking at 20 years. Picture them piling up. Literally a mountain of plastic. And remember, faux fur has been around since the middle of the last century. Like, how big is that mountain of faux fur coats? It's going to be sitting in the landfill for at least another millennium. Millions upon millions upon millions of tiny microfibers have been shed by those coats over the years, and they're now somewhere in our ocean. Disgusting, right? And you know what else? Faux fur isn't actually that warm, and it doesn't allow the skin to breathe because, it's plastic. But you know why retailers love faux fur? Oh, they just love it because it's so cheap. Even when you're buying that $1,000 faux fur coat, a $300 faux fur coat, I want you to keep in mind that synthetic fabric is so cheap. So what we're really helping all of these brands do is they try to be more, quote, sustainable, which they're not, is we're really helping them make more of a profit off of selling us outerwear. Also, I forgot to add this. Think about all the faux fur used on winter hats, gloves, scarves, throw pillows, as collars on jackets. I think I've seen some faux fur blankets out there. I'm probably missing some other categories here. Faux fur purses. I could go on and on. That's all faux fur too. That's all plastic. And one more thing I just want to point out, or maybe you haven't heard about this, there have been numerous instances in recent years of real, actual animal fur being sold as faux fur. Don't even get me started there. I have to say it. I have serious problems with real fur. I don't think any animals should be killed for fashion, so I don't think buying a real fur coat is a better alternative. And if you disagree, that's okay. Then you can buy a real fur coat. I do, however, think it's okay to buy a vintage fur coat if you're going to care for it, because that could keep you warm for your entire life, and you could even pass it on to your children and grandchildren. But once again, you're going to need to care for it. So what do I think here? Well, for one, please do not buy any new faux fur, no matter how trendy it's supposed to be. It's okay to buy it secondhand because, God knows it's going to be around for 1,000 years. So let's use it as much as possible. And sort of brushing it regularly. I know that sounds silly, but if you had a Barbie brush, it'd be really effective. It will allow you to catch those loose fibers and dispose of them responsibly. But once again, please do not buy new faux fur because that encourages the industry to continue making more. In general, I don't think we need a closet full of winter coats either. I'm thinking maybe a puffer for super cold weather, a regular warm coat for work, errands, etc., and then maybe a dressier coat for events like church and special occasions, but that's it. We shouldn't be buying a new coat or coats every year. We went from buying a good coat that would last a decade or more to buying multiple coats and jackets every year. Why? Because outerwear became a trend, according to the fashion industry. Oh, yes. I've been in the meetings. I've said it myself. There was faux fur, neons, embellishment, lengths and silhouettes, hoods, not hoods, different collars and button details, all of which we should embrace as hot and stylish. So we bought more and more. And you know what? The quality got worse and worse, and the coats didn't last as long. But we didn't care because we had already moved on to the new thing. So we threw them out. They were essentially non-repairable, so why donate them? Or we might say, that coat was only $90, like who cares? Well, unfortunately, at the same time, coats also became more and more synthetic. So while they fell apart from a few months of wear, they'll be lingering in the landfills, emitting toxic chemicals for generations upon generations. I've been thinking a lot about selfishness and selflessness in relation to the greater good. The differences have become so stark and defined in the era of COVID. From a non-fashion perspective, for example, we've got people having birthday parties while others cannot see their dying parents and grandparents in the hospital. Others go to known hotspots like Florida or Mexico just for fun or because their birthday is more important than anyone else's safety. How about people who do international travel just because they need a vacation? What about dinner parties and road trips and romantic getaways because not commemorating a special occasion for just one time far overshadows the health of the greater good? The greater good of protecting the vulnerable people of the world, the elderly, the sick. I've been saying for a while that you can really see the hearts of the people in our lives by watching their behavior right now. When I see this kind of stuff happening, I get depressed, sad, angry, everything about the future of our world. I mean, because will people give up a new outfit every weekend? Will they give up vegan leather and faux fur? Will they give up constant consumption when they know it's so bad for both the climate and the people making these clothes and coats? I just don't know. When I'm having a bad day, I just don't know. I have to remind myself that we are building a movement. I already see more and more people talking about ending fast fashion on social media. Honestly, it seems like I see more people every week. And this makes me feel like we can do this. That if we change our ways and spread the word to others, then maybe we can make it happen. It begins with us, but it ends with enough people on board to force change within the big corporations and brands. Or maybe we just drive them out of business. And you know what? I wouldn't be mad about that either. We can do this. We won't give money to assholes. We'll take a deep look at ourselves, our consumption, and our socially programmed desires to buy more and more and more. We'll change our ways. We'll wear the same outfit all the time on Instagram, and you know what? We'll be super proud about it. We'll buy secondhand. We'll view the people who make our clothes as actual humans with the same dreams and needs that we have, and we will want better for them. We'll support emerging brands and designers that do things the right way, and we will loudly, super loudly, change our ways and bring others along for the ride. We can do this. We can do this. Okay, well, take a deep breath. Let's get into the episode with Meredith. Let's talk about how things are fit. How do we fit a garment? Because it's an odyssey. It's a process. It's a journey.
I like the word odyssey. That's very accurate. I often feel like I'm conducting a symphony as I'm going through the fit process. It's a lot of pulling together of things and people and ideas. But you kind of touched on it a little bit ago. When a brand decides, all right, we're going to make this new style. Mm-hmm. A bunch of departments get together and decide on all the details. So you have design, who should be coming up in theory with the concept, the idea, the vision. Mm-hmm. You have the buying team that's like, hey, I know you want this vision, but this is how it's going to fit into our line plan. Can you please make sure you add pockets and make sure that it's in this silhouette, because we see this as being something that's going to be really important this year. And then you have your product development team, who is helping find the fabrications, but also keeping cost in mind. And then you have, the redheaded stepchild department, which is the technical design department. We're like there, but we're like not there. We're like in the shadows. Most people don't know we exist. So the technical design team, we're here to ensure that your garments fit you the best we can possibly fit you. Obviously, we try our best every single time. Sometimes it's a hit, sometimes it's a miss, but we do our best.
Well, I mean, there's so many people involved. You know what I mean? Like, you could come up with the best tech pack on earth and the best grading and everything, and it's really up to the factory to execute it.
Yes. I like being able to put blame on the factory at all times. Now I work at a domestic factory, so unfortunately, like, I don't want to do that anymore. I want to be able to blame everyone else but myself. But yes, when you're doing primarily overseas, there's a lot of people involved. Like, if I always let people know when you have your t-shirt, like, think of your favorite t-shirt. It's a basic t-shirt, right? It just has a neckband, two sleeves, and a body. Okay, how many people touched that t-shirt?
Oh my God, no, it's crazy because someone cut out the fabric, right? Well, first off, someone made the fabric. Someone dyed the fabric.
Someone designed, like, go all the way back. Like, think of all the people that touched it in the company before you even made it to the factory.
I mean, there was a concept, then there were sketches.
Yes. Meetings and meetings and meetings and more meetings.
So much hemming and hawing. about what is this t-shirt? How does it fit into our assortment?
Yes.
There were swatches of fabrics.
Yes. Swatches, there were tiers, maybe a free lunch. I don't know. A lot goes into these initial meetings and ideas. And it's the technical design department's job to take all of this information and build a tech pack. So, a tech pack is a technical package, and it's essentially a blueprint for a style. So, I like to tell people when you get IKEA furniture and it has that awesome, well, I think it's awesome, a line drawing of the object that you're about to build, and it has the dimensions and it has all
Mhm.
the as much information as possible on how to put it together. That is essentially what a tech pack is. So we take this concept, maybe the design team sketched it out by hand, or you're working off of tears from a magazine and you're
True.
Frankensteining things together. Like, I want this sleeve, I want this body, I want to use this fabric. So you kind of take all that information, and sometimes it's our job to say, like, I know you want to do this, but hey, you forgot how to get inside this garment. Do you have a zipper? Do you have buttons? That's happened more times than I can think. It's our job to kind of reality check everybody and say, I know you want all these things, but maybe this fabric isn't the best idea, or we should change the style line to provide a better fit, things like that. So we compile all the information. We kind of go back and forth with all the different departments. And then we create this technical package in addition to a very pretty line drawing that calls out how the garment is constructed. So what types of sewing operations is the factory supposed to use on this garment and where? There's also information like what trims are going into this style. We call it a bill of materials. So it lists the fabric, it lists the trims, it lists any kind of special wash process. Anything that goes into the garment goes on this bill of materials. And then the bread and butter of the tech pack is the spec sheet. So
Ooh.
what is this going to measure? How do you want this garment to come out, right? We're
Mhm.
giving guidance to the factory to say, okay, you're looking at all our pretty pictures, our design inspo, all these swatches we're sending you. But now we need you to take that and we need to make sure that it hits this length, it hits this chest width, it hits the sleeve length. All of that information comes from your lovely technical design department. And just as we were talking before, this is kind of where fit can change a lot, right? It all comes from those measurements. So if we take this t-shirt that we sold last year and we said, okay, this is a great t-shirt, but for this year, we're going to change the sleeve to a flutter sleeve and we're going to use a self neckband instead of a rib neckband, really change it up. But we want it to fit overall the same. Well, okay, if your friendly technical designer sits down and they're like, okay, whatever, like, I didn't really like this t-shirt. I didn't think it was that great. So, I'm going to change a few more things. Something as little as like adjusting the chest spec can change the fit dramatically. So like, I'm here to represent all my techies out there, but there's a lot of bad apples. So sometimes, your tech designer might be a little pissed off at the designer. Maybe you guys got in a
Mhm.
fight and
I
she
mean, I've
doesn't really
seen
care.
it. I've seen it.
Oh,
It happens.
listen, it happens. It definitely happens. It's not the best case, but it does. So just watch out. We wield a lot of power. We might be silent in the shadows, but we can have a lot of say in how your garment comes out. So be nice.
Threatening.
I mean, sometimes you have to do it. These measurements are what the factory should be referencing when they're making the first sample. So once you send all this information over to the factory, you might have a pattern for them to reference as well. Or, especially in this t-shirt case, right? Hey, we
Mhm.
did that t-shirt last year, or we made it with you. Can you please reference that pattern and just make these adjustments? So in a perfect world, that factory would take all this information, consume it, and pop back out what we would call a proto sample. So a prototype,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
It's the first
Mhm.
time we're seeing it. We
It's
know
it's usually not good.
it's usually very bad. So sometimes I've been pleasantly surprised where I'm like, you took this information and actually like spit this garment out. Like a lot of times they look great. You see them on the hanger, you're like, wow, it actually looks really good. And then you get it on a body and you're like, oh, we'll take that back. Not as good. Not as good.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, like, sometimes you're literally cutting them apart to
Oh,
fit them on the model. I think that's really important to call out too. Like, this is not the final garment. It's gonna be cut up, it's gonna be
mm,
safety pinned, it's
mhm.
gonna all kinds of things are gonna happen to it.
I am notorious for cutting fit samples. I had quite the reputation. Sometimes at bigger brands, you can get multiple samples, right? So you can share with different departments as you go through the process. Buying might need something for a style out, and design needs to reference it for the next season. So if you only have one sample, if you work at a smaller company and you're only getting one proto sample, you can come under a lot of heat for kind of dismembering that. And I was definitely the queen of doing that because that's how the garment talks to me. That's how it tells me what it needs is I have to open it up and really get in there. And
Mhm.
so I kind of had a reputation for that. But when the proto comes in, you're always evaluating it on a body. So you have a fit model,
Mhm.
and this fit model is what we call your base size. So, and I was thinking about this earlier, most base sizes for women's wear is a size small.
Mhm.
So you fit on a size small and you standardize the fit there. And then before it goes into production, you make the pattern bigger and smaller with your grade rule to determine what a size small is going to be, what a size extra large is going to be. It gets bigger and smaller from that core size.
Mhm.
Why wouldn't we then fit on a size medium or large if you think you'd want something like in the middle, right? You'd want
Right.
something where you'd have this even nice grade down and up. Well, it's never done that way. And most of the time, it's because the way that the buyers, the designers, the chief executives, the way that clothing has been and probably will for a long time, the way it's been analyzed is on a smaller size, right? It's always like it needs to look cute on the hanger, especially if you're doing wholesale, right? It's
Mhm.
got to look cute on
Mhm.
the hanger. It's if it's not cute, like we can't show it. If we can't hang it on a hanger and it looks amazing, then we can't do it. So they don't want to have these samples in bigger sizes for that reason.
Isn't that horrible? We're also talking about, like, we're literally talking about the difference between a small and a medium here,
Mhm.
which
Yes.
is not very much, depending on your
No.
grading rules. It's j it the whole industry makes me so angry.
Well, it's weird. When I did juniors clothing, our fit size was a medium. And
Mhm.
I don't know why, but it was. And at that company I was working, we had our own in-house brand that we sold, like we private labeled out to people, but also we worked with big retailers like Target, and Target's fit size was a size medium for juniors. So there are some companies that do it a little differently. I don't know exactly why juniors kind of falls into that, but for women's wear, it is a small. And this is another thing to consider with fit models. So if we go back to ModCloth as an example, right, we were talking about the difference between a junior's fit and a woman's fit. Now we always had the regular size range, so alpha, small, medium, large, and when we did have numeric, it was 2, 4, 6. It was never odd numbers.
Right.
But initially, and probably for the time that you were there, we had more of a junior's fit, right? It was a little smaller on the small side.
Definitely, definitely. Everybody, and I know we're gonna talk about this later, we're gonna talk about customer reviews and how we use
Oh,
them, but it was
yes.
always the same thing. "My boobs don't fit in this dress." Like, always, right?
Well, the
And
fit
that
model had no boobs,
right.
so that's why.
And I think it's important to say that, like, fit models, like, when they're getting hired by the brand is literally is like, "Here are the specs we want your body to have," right?
Uh-huh, yep.
You might call yourself a size small and fit into most size small clothes perfectly fine. You might not fit what that company wants a size small to be. So
Exactly.
so at Nasty Gal, for example, somewhere along the line there had been a decision made that they wanted the ideal Nasty Gal body type to mirror the body type of the founder, Sophia, which meant I know. So
Mm.
small up top with wider hips.
Uh-huh.
And along with that, the decision had been made that we didn't, and when I say we, I do not mean me. I mean we
Right,
the
of
company
course.
did
Yeah.
not really want to be in the business of making tops that would accommodate over a C cup. So the grading for chest was super strange too because we still carried up to a size large or an extra large, which you would think at that point a D, a double D could without a doubt fit into. And that just wasn't the case. If it was a dress, it was still going to be small up top by the time you got to the extra large,
Mhm,
but would
mhm.
be a lot wider in the hips, you know? And so once again, I guess that would be what we would call like a pear shape, right? Like
Yeah. Yep.
we were targeting a pear shape. I remember at some point at ModCloth, we had made the decision that we were going to go after, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, a more hourglass shaped figure.
Mhm.
Wasn't that what we
Yes.
at some point decided?
Yeah, especially with, the plus size line, which we'll get into the nitty-gritty on that, but we definitely were fitting more of an hourglass shape, and with the reg size range, originally it was more of a juniors fit, and then we started kind of close to when I left, we started shifting to a contemporary fit. So our fit model, like size small, went from like a really, really small juniors, flat juniors to like we transitioned out of that fit model. Then we were still kind of fitting within the same size range, but our fit model had a chest and was a little bit more hourglass, wasn't as straight
Mhm.
as the previous fit model. And then when I left, that's when like our size small like the size small clothing we had been making before that, before we changed fit models, would not fit the new fit model that we were getting, who we were also calling a size small. So you see the problem here?
Right. No, it's true. It's true. I mean, it's like, and once again, then you order from ModCloth because you don't know this is going on, and then you can't even zip up the dress, and you're like,
Mhm.
"What's wrong with me?"
Right.
You feel shitty all day, and you don't eat dinner, and like, no, 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 no. It has nothing to do with you. It's so
It's not
random,
you. It's not you
and I
guys.
wish. I mean, I think one way that this could be a better experience for customers is to be really forthright. Hey, we realized that the way we were fitting this wasn't right for our customers. We listened to you. We changed how we fit.
Yeah.
Here's what we changed. Check out the chart. Your size has probably changed. Just be
Yeah.
very clear. But while some brands are actively changing grading in order to serve their customer better, most of them are not.
No.
I mean, once again, like this fit at Nasty Gal was so arbitrary. Like, why would you
Yes.
do
I
that?
Well, now with all this information, I feel like I should have been shopping at NASCAR this whole time. Everything would have fit me great.
It was
I don't
it
think I
was
ever bought anything
so
from there.
weird, and I would laugh all the time thinking about this plan that we weren't gonna go over a C cup for tops. Tops was one of the categories I managed. That's how I was in these fit sessions
Mhm.
being part of this conversation. And I was like, didn't somebody do a bunch of consumer insights that said a lot of our customers have breast implants? Well, most of them are not going to the doctor and being like, put some C's on this. Everyone's going for a D. Am I right? Like,
Yes, yes.
so what are we doing?
Oh my god, yes. I mean, I love and hate hearing stories like this because it is very rampant across everything. When I was at Lucky Brand, the guy, God, he wasn't there very long, but we had kind of like the senior VP of production. He would come by and try to put on men's fit samples, which were a size medium, and he was not a medium. He was not like an overly large gentleman, but he definitely was not a size medium. So he would put these mediums on, and then he would complain about the fit, and we would just look at each other like, "Man, don't you get it? Like this is not your size. Like you should like." And he would just take he would basically look at us like we were crazy, like, why isn't this fitting me? And we'd just be looking at him like, because excuse me, sir, because you're not a medium. Like, I'm sorry, are you sitting down? This shouldn't fit you. But you can have like as like something like that where it's just one person who's like, well, everything must fit me because I'm
Oh yeah,
important.
I've worked so many places, and
Yeah.
I must be the size small, you know? I mean, and
Uh-huh.
this still goes
Yep.
on. There's a lot of controversy on the interwebs right now with all these influencers who have fashion lines, which, by the way, they're just
Mm,
licensed. These people are not designing the clothes. But
okay. This is what I do for a
okay,
living
okay,
now.
so you
So,
know. But you're dealing with, like, different influencers, so I will tell you that, some of the influencers that have been getting a lot of heat right now, one of them is We Wore What, and I know you don't work for this
mhm.
company because 'cause they're based in New York, but she wants herself to be the size small. She's not. She's like, well, what we traditionally would think of as a size small, she's like a size 8 to
Right.
10, and, she
Yes.
wants to be the size small. She also photoshops herself down to look like a double zero.
Oh
So,
god.
customers are having these really negative experiences shopping because they're like, "Well, she says she's a small, but she looks like she doesn't even weigh 100 pounds. I would
Mhm.
normally be a small, but I must be a medium or a large because I'm so much bigger than her." So they're getting them, and then the clothes are
Oh, no.
humongous, right?
Oh,
And so
no.
there's just, like, a lot of unhappiness there. I feel like I've
Yes.
had to diffuse a lot of conversations on Reddit where people are confused about this and be like, "This is what's going on. This is what you need to do.
Yeah.
Look at the size chart, measure your body." The same thing I tell everyone,
Yeah.
and so, like, ignore her. Her photoshopping is really bad.
Yes. It's I can okay, this is really just hitting home right now in so many ways. You have no idea. Because so much of this is this way now, right? Where influencers or people of notoriety are putting out their own brands. That's kind of what's happening. That's what's making money these days. This is the world
Mhm,
we live in.
mhm.
It's Instagram world. For the most part, people are super clueless about size. So if you put it in their court of like, okay, well, what size do you want to call this? It really sets them up for failure in that way, right? Where you have these customers that are like, wait a second, no, like there's no way. Like if she's a small, then I have to be like a triple XL,
Yeah,
right?
exactly, exactly.
It's just so really what needs to happen around those people and what we have been trying to do at our company is kind of guide everyone towards using a fit model and kind of standardized sizing, because we're like, if you're trying to fit the masses and get all of your followers to buy the stuff and be happy with it, then you should think about actually doing it the way everyone else does it, instead of just being like, all right, I'm fitting on myself, like this is how it is. Like I am the size, everyone else is whatever. So
Mhm, mhm.
hopefully, as stuff like this becomes more prevalent, we have more industry people who are going to be involved to help them along. But until that happens, there's going to be a lot of that, just a lot of that.
Totally, totally, and, something that I did not know until I worked in the industry is that being a fit model is actually a skilled job. Like,
Yes.
you assume when you hear that word, that basically a person is coming in and they are acting as a mannequin, and
Listen.
yeah,
Yes.
it's so much more. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Well, first of all, if you do find yourself to be a fit model, congratulations. It is a tough job. You do drive a lot around a lot, but you do get paid very well.
Yes, yes.
When you're casting a fit model, you reach out to a model agency who offers fit model services, but most of the time, these are just basically their same models that they send out for print and whatnot, but they decide like, okay, well, this girl isn't getting a lot of work, so we're going to see if she can get some fit model jobs. So I have been through many, many castings where models have come through, they say they have experience, but in reality they've just done one catalog shoot and they think that that's the same thing, and you can tell how awkward they are even just within the time frame of when you measure a model. So the model comes in, what measurements you want them to be around, then you go through and you measure that model to see where they are at based on your standards. So you start measuring them and you ask them to point to something like their apex, which is for those of you that don't know, you're like basically your nipples, right? The apex of your bust, the highest point of the curve. And they look at you like you're from Mars. But this is a very common term within the industry, in the biz. So it's always funny. You can always spot a novice fit model if they don't know what the apex is when you ask them to point to it. Or when you're measuring their total rise, a seasoned fit model knows what's going to go on. You're going to take that tape measure and they're going to hold it in the front. You're going to walk it through their legs all the way up to the other side. So anyone that's been through model castings for fit models have done this before. And it's always really funny when you have an inexperienced fit model come through and they're like, wait, I'm sorry, what? And you're like, all right, I'm going to need you to hold this and I'm going to guide this through your legs, not awkward at all, and pull it all the way up through your crotch on the other side. But it is like, it is a very skilled job, right? It's a fine balance between knowing when to give feedback, knowing when to hold back. Like fittings are very dynamic. There's a lot of politics involved. You have a lot of personalities. You have a lot of viewpoints. So a good fit model reads the room, right? Reads the room. They know what's up. They know, okay, I'm trying on the sample. It's a PP sample. I look at the tag. Okay, the delivery date is like next month. So this thing had to be approved yesterday. So if I'm a good fit model, I'm looking at the tag. I'm like, I'm in my mind analyzing, not saying out loud, like, okay, this is a PP sample. In my mind, I'm like, okay, this needs to be approved. So I know I'm going to give feedback, especially if it's something very important, like, oh, hey, I can't move my arms, right? I'm going to say that. But maybe there's something like very, very small that I might just whisper to the tech when I'm taking it off, like, hey, by the way, like the button fell off, or, something like that, right? I'm reading the room. I know there's a lot of important people in this fitting and I don't want to drag it on. And I know this needs to be approved. So you have to have a lot of knowledge of the fit process, of the people involved, of what needs to happen when and why. So good fit models, they are a rare breed, but the good ones, the good ones. They have all the work, so it's hard to nail them down. But they know what they're talking about, because you have to be part therapist, you have to be mediator, you have to be best friend, you have to be enemy, you have to be a lot of things on top of trying on really uncomfortable clothes, being prodded. Maybe your bra strap gets cut when someone takes scissors to it. It's not happened to me, but I know people it's happened to before. You get pushed and prodded and poked, and it's not like what they make is great money, but they definitely earn that money, because it's not, you could be standing for hours. Some fit sessions go all day and you're just standing and trying clothes on and being poked and prodded and moved, and and maybe the room's really hot and you're trying on a polyester dress for Christmas in the middle of July. Like, it's not glamorous at all. But those good fit models, man, those good ones, they're keepers.
Yeah, we had a great one at Nasty Gal, and she was so smart and so helpful and just like gave the best feedback. And she felt like a member of the team, not some like rando that we'd brought in. I mean, just incredible. And she was always working somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard. There's a guy that we just brought into our company as we're starting to standardize fittings within our own organization. I called on a guy that I know from Lucky Brand, and our dress form was a scan of his body. Like, he went and got his body scanned, and the dress form was his body. It had his name on it.
Wow.
Yeah. But he was, at the time and still today, he fit for all the major denim brands. Like, he was OG. He started fitting in the early aughts and just was the body. So I call him the body because he really is. He really is the body, and like, we had a dress form with his freaking name on it. Like, he was the body. So these people are really important, and these people are the ones who kind of pave the way for how your clothes fit. So they definitely deserve the respect. The good ones deserve your respect. They're real true gems when you find a good one.
Yeah. Definitely. And once again, highly skilled labor.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, so let's talk about, we touched on this, how brands use reviews to make fit better. Because this, I mean, more than any place I've worked, this is what we did at ModCloth. Like, we listen to reviews more than ever. But I think that we started a trend where other retailers were like, oh shit, we just can't keep churning out stuff that doesn't fit anyone.
Oh, dang. It just can't happen in the shadows anymore.
Yeah.
Like, online reviews are like a blessing and a curse, right? Like, you can easily have one style that gets the very first review is a 1-star review, and all it says is, I didn't like it. 1
And
star.
and you know what? No one will ever buy it because what
Yes.
I've learned as a buyer that is one of those things that just drives me insane is that nobody reads the copy that tells you like runs a size small or
No.
this doesn't have pockets or, what I don't know, this is a two-piecer, you have to wear a slip, whatever. No one reads
Mhm.
that, but they all read the reviews, or at least the
Yes.
first one that's 1 star, and then no one ever buys it.
Yes. Yes, and there's so many times where too, like, let's say it was a really important style, right? This was like a deep buy for the season,
Yeah.
and you as a buyer, you're on the website and you see that, you're gonna come over to me and be like, can I see what this TOP looks like? Because the one and only review we have is negative and this is
Ah.
not good, right?
And you can't
So
delete it. It's illegal to delete a
no,
review. I mean, I'm sure
I
people do
mean,
it, but you're not supposed to.
if only, right? If
Yeah.
only. Yeah, you can't do that, and unfortunately it's there. And sometimes like I said, the reviews have no real feedback. It's just like, I don't like it. It wasn't what I thought it was gonna be. And it's 1 star, and then people are like, oh, I shouldn't buy this. But it can cause like a huge problem, right? Like let's say you are the buyer, you're kind of freaking out. Like all of a sudden the one review we have is 1 star. Sometimes the red flag gets raised very quickly within an organization where you have to kind of pull the TOP, pull the fit samples, look at the
Mhm.
history, what happened. Like, let's say we had 2 reviews in a row that were calling out that they couldn't get their head through the garment, which has happened.
I mean, I've bought things like that for
Yes.
myself. I
Yeah.
also once bought a pair of pants from Zara, and my husband kept being, like, convinced that I had accidentally bought children's pants, but I definitely did not, and I couldn't even get my foot into the leg hole.
Oh
It
no.
was and he was like,
No.
"That's because 'cause they're children's pants," and I was like, "No, they're not," and he was like, "Yeah, they are," and we were, like, squabbling, and then I had to, like, open the Zara website and be like, "No, look, it's women."
Yes. Yes. This should be for me, but maybe like, it could be a one-off, but more than likely someone messed that up,
Oh,
right?
yeah, yeah.
So it happens, unfortunately, and sometimes it's tech designer's fault, right? Things just don't always work out the way we want to. Other times, that's how we identify. Something must have happened in production, and we need to go pull production from the distribution center and double check it. Um,
Mhm.
Reviews are a double-edged sword, right? It really helps you inform you of your customer base, what they like, what they don't like, what they think is missing from your garments. Is the small too small? Is the extra large too big? A lot of that feedback previously to the internet was difficult to compile and
Mhm.
quantify, right? You might have feedback from your individual stores, but I can't really say how often that information was being relayed to corporate and then relayed to the fit team or the design team, right? I'm not sure how much that actually happened back in the day, but today we have our finger on the pulse, right? We can get all this information really quickly. You don't want to be too reactionary, right? You don't want to just all of a sudden, one person says something and now we can never do that again.
Mhm.
You have to find like consistency, especially when you're thinking about changing sizing, which I know we did that at ModCloth as well. Like ModCloth absolutely gets the gold medal for fitting in my eyes. Like any company I've ever worked with, we took it so seriously and took so much time to analyze data. We did our own in-house fit reviews where we pulled customers in and had them try on size runs of things, and we collected pretty much as much data as any tech team I think could ever collect in America. We really, really were dedicated to the cause of making things fit as best they could given our circumstances. So, applause there. Really, really leading the way with reviews and listening to the customer and just really recognizing that fit is so important, especially when you are offering extended sizes and there's so little data anywhere to help guide your decisions in that way. You really have to do your own research. And so we were really dedicated, especially with the plus size range, to make that as best as it could be. But yeah, reviews, it can be good, can be bad. It just all depends on how they're utilized.
More than anywhere I've worked, we cared about what the customer thought at ModCloth, and we really listened, and of course, a big chunk of the reviews were stupid. It'd be like, I am a 38 triple F and I bought a medium and it was too small in the
Yes.
chest. And you'd be like, yeah, but if you'd read the copy that told you to look at the size chart, this wouldn't have happened. And now, like, we were not allowed to reorder anything that had less than 4 stars and it had to have at least like, I
Oh,
don't know,
wow.
20 reviews. Most things would get hundreds of reviews because the customer was
Mhm.
engaged in a way that I've never seen anywhere else. But at the same time, you get a bunch of people posting things like, I didn't like it. My package got lost. It
Yeah.
turns out I look
Yeah.
bad in green or
Mhm.
something. It brings down the
Yes.
score and you still can't reorder it, even though other people are like, this dress changed my life. I got a
Right.
promotion at work because I looked so good or something. So it is hard. And I love reading reviews like for comedic effect, not really from clothing as much as like going on
Yes.
Amazon for random things and reading reviews to my husband. And the
Oh,
reviews
yeah.
are always like so bizarre. Like, I'm mad at Amazon, or why don't you sell this on DVD? Or it's just always so silly. But anyway, I would say that for anyone who wants to start a clothing company, you have to really embrace the review process and encourage your customer to participate, because that is how you're really going to figure out who your customer is. And,
Mhm.
what's her body type? Maybe she's not pear-shaped. You're just assuming, so once
Yes.
again, that can help you like drive your business. Not that a lot of brands pay attention to that, but
Yes.
they should. So, okay, let's get into like a really important topic here, which we touched on in the beginning, which is plus sizing, to start with, I hate the term plus sizing. I feel like it just has this like negative vibe to it that I don't care for. I prefer it
Yeah.
to be like extended sizing. I feel like when people say inclusive sizes, it's kind of
Yes, I
condescending.
agree.
I hate when people say standard and plus as the 2 size sets that they sell. I hate that. I mean, I have a lot of feelings about this. It just seems like the few brands that do it most of the time are doing it wrong, right?
Yes.
So let's start with, okay, why is it challenging to nail the fit for extended sizes? Like,
Yeah.
why is this so much harder?
It's harder for a handful of reasons. The first being, we talked about the proportion, right? The proportion between bust,
Mhm.
waist, hip. When you get into plus sizes, there's even more variance than there are with what, unfortunately, as you were saying, we call standard sizing reg sizing in the industry. Like, it's already inherently biased against plus size people, where we're like, this is reg, and then you guys are over here, right? It's already like a dirty term, in my opinion. But there's so much more variance between when you get into that size range. So it makes it harder to kind of get that middle of the road fit, right? We didn't talk about it, but when you talk about the difference between alpha and numeric sizing, usually with alpha sizing, 2 numeric sizes fit within that alpha size. So for example, a size small is traditionally a 4 and 6. So
Mhm.
when you're fitting a size small, you tend to fit towards the 6 end of the size small range, so that someone who's slightly smaller and would be more of a 4 could still fit into it. Like, it wouldn't be giant on them, but also the top end of your size small will also fit into it. So when you think of it that way, you're like, wow, this can get really complicated, right?
Yeah, I'd never even thought of that. I'd never even thought of
Yeah.
that, because it does seem like maybe some brands are actually, if they're fitting at all, they're fitting their size small to really fit the 4
Mhm.
and maybe somewhat fit the
Yes,
6.
yeah, it absolutely. I've been in many places where that is the case, right? Or that's not even taken into
Mhm.
consideration. Like, you go on and you look at a size chart, right? It's never one number, it's a range of numbers, right? You're
Mhm,
somewhere,
mhm.
but it's usually a 2-inch range. And so that's a lot when you're talking about a garment. So that's why, alpha sizing is more widely used. It's cheaper, it's easier to do, but it also causes more issues with fit. So it's the same thing when you get into plus size. There's more of a range between, like, okay, if I'm a 2X, my bust might be a 3X and my waist might be, we see this with regular sizing as well, but it just gets like there's more variance with plus size. So it's very difficult when you're a plus woman where you're like, okay, my chest is a 3X, but my hips are actually a 1X. Like, what do I buy? Like, that's very common where you have a larger
Mm-hmm.
chest and then the rest of your body is a smaller size. How do you find something that fits you? It's tough,
Right, right,
right?
right. And so what do you do there as the tech designer? Like what decision would you make there? Like I I know it's like there's no easy answer, right?
Well, yeah, it's so when you're looking at a garment and what size you should order, I always think about, first of all, does this stretch or does it not stretch, right? If it
Mhm.
does have
Mhm.
some stretch to it, you're like, okay, I have some leeway here. It doesn't necessarily have to like fit me to a T. So if I can be okay with it being slightly tight in certain areas, then we have a little bit more room to play with. If it's non-stretch, you have to go with your biggest measurement and buy into that, right? And get to know a
Mhm.
tailor. Doesn't matter what size you are, find someone who can alter your clothing. Whether it's done by you and it's super janky, but you make it work, or you're going down the street to this like 80-year-old Italian guy who has been doing it his entire life. Whoever it is and whatever size you are, please, please, please find someone that can help you make your clothes fit. You will be so
Mhm.
much happier. You'll be more likely to buy more expensive things, take them, get them altered. You'll have them forever. It's like
Mhm.
this is
Mhm.
something I like to remind people. We talked about that sizing is new. It's a new invention. It's an invention of the 20th century. So we're still getting on board with all this. And as we've discussed, if you haven't picked up already, it's so arbitrary. So stop beating yourself up. Buy something that sort of fits you and get it altered to fit you or alter it yourself. Like you will
Mhm.
be
Mhm.
so much happier, so much happier with your clothes, the way you look in your clothes, the way you feel in your clothes. So, when we talk about plus size, and every time we've done fit studies with plus customers, a lot of plus size women have these people in their corner because they have more of a need for it. It's very really difficult if you have such a difference between your bust and your hips. You don't want to look like you're swimming in everything, right? You need it to fit your chest,
Right.
but you
Right.
also want to feel cute and actually feel like everything fits you, and you'll have more confidence that way. So more plus women tend to have tailors or people who alter their clothes in their corner because they have, unfortunately, more of a need for it. But I highly recommend for everybody, no matter what size you are, to take that into consideration when you're shopping ready to wear.
100%. And, once again, going back to this idea of like spending a little bit more because you're going to make it perfect for you
Yes,
instead of buying something for $10, like really investing into it so that it doesn't feel crazy to get it altered, you know?
exactly, absolutely.
Yeah, because it would feel crazy to take a $10 dress from Forever 21 and get it fitted at the tailor. They'd probably kind of laugh at you a little bit,
Yeah,
but you
you
definitely
could,
could if you loved
you
it.
absolutely
That
could.
doesn't mean anything. Yeah, yeah. So one thing that a lot of people probably wouldn't guess is that, we don't just keep grading up from size small through the extended sizes because that would
Correct.
be crazy. You would end up with super long, weird sleeves and weird lengths of the body. And, it
Oh,
would be like a Frankenstein nightmare garment.
this does happen though, which is the sad thing, and that's why when you are shopping in the plus size range, you have to be really vigilant to see, like, have they been doing this for a while? Is this like an actual initiative of them, or are they like looking at the numbers, right? You said there's so much money on the table, it's just there that is left by this plus size market and is not being filled. So maybe you have a brand that's like, oh wow, look, there's money, I love money, let's do it. And then they're just like, yep, just make it bigger. Because we've seen that. We saw that at ModCloth often with brands where they would agree to do plus size for us, and we'd give them parameters for the fit sample. Fit
Hmm.
sample would come in, we'd put it on the model, and you would just, your head would fall off. It was just unbelievable that anybody could call that a garment that someone could wear.
I know, and they would be crazy. Like, we would get samples in from new brands that we were trying to get to make extended sizes for us, and, like, we would send them grading from your team,
Mhm.
really hold their hand through it, and then we'd get something that was, like, for someone who was 8 feet tall or
Yes, yes.
like, it was
Just
just
like, okay, like, one thing that was really common at ModCloth, because our things were fitted, we use a lot of bust dart. So if you don't know, bust dart is that line that's on the side of shirts that kind of goes from the side seam to your apex, your nipple. Um, if it's positioned correctly, of course.
Yeah, yeah.
That helps.
Sometimes I mean, I think that's a good call out. Sometimes it's a weird red flag where it lands under your boob or
Mm,
on the top of it, and
or
you're like,
way above. Yes, that's
yeah,
my
yes.
favorite.
Oh, that is something we would see all the time
Oh,
on
all the
first
time.
samples where the dart was like, "Oh, I don't know, like around your clavicle."
Yes, we did dart surgery on the daily at ModCloth. It's very, very common. But so darts are actually there to do something. They're there to help shape this flat piece of fabric around your body, right? So if you don't have one, it can be very challenging in the bust region. And it was always a telltale sign of a company that was just taking a pattern and just making it bigger when that
Mhm.
bust dart was the same depth and length as it would be on a size small. And you're
Right.
like, okay, like the dart should grade regardless, per size. It's not a huge amount when you're looking at it, but it does change per size. And if you're doing the same dart for a size small, like a 32, 34-inch chest for someone who is a 2X, like good luck. That's not going to do anything. It's just going to be there and look funny. So the shaping is completely different. And that's another thing is like, you know, it's super challenging for plus size, right? Because we have different body measurements. There's a wider range of variation between bust, waist, and hip, but also there's like a lot less data out there. We don't have as much data as we have with reg sizing. And then the people who are making the patterns and doing the fittings, I mean, even goes down to tech designers. Do they even have experience with plus? A lot of people don't. It's kind of a unicorn thing. And it's one thing that's helped me with my career because pretty much every place I've worked on plus. So I have that knowledge where I can look at a pattern and be like, that's not going to work. Like I just look at it. But it took years and years and years of looking at the wrong thing to know, okay, that's not going to work. Right.
Right.
So you have to be super skilled in the area. And there's just such a small group of people in the fashion industry, which is already really small, who have this knowledge base. So,
Yeah, I was reading that actually doing grading for extended sizes and designing for that is not generally covered in design school.
no.
And schools are just starting now to sort of integrate it, but it's almost like you're only going to learn about it if you pursue it. It's not like a core part of the curriculum. And once again, this goes back to this idea that we're leaving all these women out in the cold, like
Mhm.
most of the women.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. It's nuts.
It's crazy to me because we see how much this industry has been struggling and continues to struggle. And now it's like really bad, right? Like more places are going out of business. And once again, I'm just like, if you had been really honest about who you could really dress all this time, you wouldn't be in this boat.
Yes.
Instead of dropping so many collections all the time, how about you just design for more people?
Mhm.
You know?
Yep. Yeah, and I think unfortunately a lot of times when people go into plus, they're like they're going after the market share. They don't really have the good intentions behind it, and that's where
Mm-hmm.
things get lost and more people get frustrated, right? All of a sudden you're like, "Oh wow, great. You carry a size 18 now. This is awesome." But then you're just disappointed. So I know we talked about this before off air, but it was just like if there's a super group of industry people that wants to get together to launch like the best plus line ever, I'm so on board, um, because it can be done, and it can be done super well and super right, and it can be the best thing ever, but just no one's done it yet, which really blows my mind because everything's been done at this point.
Right. And well, there's such a hole that is like gaping hole out there for a line that makes clothes in all sizes, but is also sustainable, like legitimately sustainable, not fake sustainable, and,
Yeah.
like stylish at the same time. And I don't know, just does good things for the world. That doesn't exist. There are plenty of brands out there that are trading on this idea of being sustainable and ethical, but then they go up to like a size 10. So
Yeah.
how great is that brand? Like, what does that brand really stand for? It sounds like
Uh,
they're assholes. And I will say, this is something I talk to people a lot about, is like it is expensive to get into plus, right? To extend
yes.
sizes, because you have to buy more, right? Like there's way more
Mhm.
inventory you're going to have to get behind, and a lot of brands seem like they have a lot more money than they do. So it's scary. It's a
Yes.
gamble. You're going to have to pay another, tech designer, fit technician.
Mhm.
You're going to need a different fit model. There's going to be a lot more fittings. You kind of can't be like, okay, well, right now it's September. You know what? I'm going to launch extended sizes and they're going to deliver in December. Like, no,
Right.
because it's going to
Nope.
take a long time. And the nature of fast fashion and everybody's desperation to make it profit and more money, it means that no one wants to say, hey, for a year, we're going to work on something that isn't going to bring us any money, but then in a year it will. Like, it's strange.
Right.
That's the world that we work in right now. So nobody wants to say, I'm going to spend a year developing the grading,
No.
you know?
Absolutely not. Especially not in America. It's not the way we think.
No, no.
Like, we need it now.
Yeah, I mean, I have been obsessed for the past few years of starting a line like this that took like a cool, more trendy aesthetic, but did it the right way in all the sizes. I just think it's so unfair that it's like you and I were saying, like if you're 30 and you're cool and stylish and you happen to wear a larger size, well, good luck, because
Yeah.
you're never going to be
Have
happy with
fun.
what you wear. Yeah, like period.
Exactly.
Um Another thing I'm going to talk about, it's I feel like there are beliefs out there that are often held by people who are not actually larger sized, that there are certain things that the larger customer wants to wear versus not wear. So, for backgrounds, when I joined ModCloth, we had a separate team that bought Plus, and
Mhm.
that lasted maybe a year. I don't know.
Right.
And they it was a strange situation because they were based in San Francisco, but the rest of us in buying were in LA. And we would go to market and buy stuff, and then, where there were opportunities for them to tag on where they were interested, they would ask for extended sizing and they would buy it separately, and then they would buy some other things too. And we would squabble a lot because they were sort of like gatekeepers of what they felt the
Mhm.
larger sizes would wanna wear, right?
Yeah.
Ironically, the team, everybody who was on the plus size buying team was like a size 0. So, like, they don't even really know, but they have these ideas like, "Oh, it has to have sleeve coverage. We need to cover the arms. We want a higher neckline. We want this, we want that." And we don't want anything that's bodycon or, like, sexy. Like, basically, they were buying with this idea that, like, if you were over a size 14, you probably wanted to be, like, in a burqa, you know?
Right.
And we know that's not true. Um,
What? No.
so eventually they got rid of the plus size buying team and folded it in. So like I was buying all the dresses for all the sizes, and it kind of actually worked out a lot better because I was able to leverage with brands I already worked with, vendors, et cetera, to get them to add sizes and guide them through that process. And we added a lot of new stuff to the assortment that hadn't been there before, like sleeveless dresses and
Mhm.
bodycon date night stuff and boho, like these things that we'd never been offering before because ostensibly plus size customers didn't want this stuff. It's like so
Right.
silly. I mean, do you feel that like as a fit technician and your experience here, do you feel that there are things that the larger size customers don't want, or is that just all bullshit completely?
I think it's kind of half and half. I think what's more important is that we're able to take if you're talking about a brand that's offering extended sizes, you have to think like it has to be okay that we make slight alterations for the
Mhm.
plus customer.
Mhm.
I think where you fail is where you're like, obviously most companies are designing into that reg size range, right?
Mhm.
That's number one problem. the plus customer isn't really being considered from the get-go. But once you start going and fitting and realizing, okay, it's okay to have a halter top for a plus customer. It's going to sell. They've sold before. They will continue to sell tank tops, whatnot. They're wearing that stuff. But you also have to be okay with making slight alterations in the style lines to help fit the body better, right?
Right.
Because at the end of the day, you want everyone to look good in the style. So when you're trying to fit all of these rigid parameters around the style and you're like, no, like I don't want darts on this, right? All of a sudden, like a lot of people aren't going to be able to fit into the garment. I think that's been a big thing. Like there are certain people that are just super anti-dart.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why, but maybe a lot of people coming from the contemporary space feel that way. But you have to allow for variances. Maybe, overall the aesthetic's going to look the same across sizes, but there might be a few differences here and there for the plus size range just to help it fit better and make that customer feel more confident in the garment.
I think that's a really good call out. I've noticed. So, the brand Aerie, right? Okay,
Yes.
I think they do, of pretty much anyone else out there in the industry, one of the best jobs of being really size inclusive, showing real women,
Mm-hmm.
diversity of models, all the things that I love. Uh, it's like even a younger audience, which I think is interesting, but like they have fans of all ages. Like I buy bras and underwear from them. And the thing that I've seen the most negative reviews about on their site is it'll be a bra. It comes in all sizes, up to like, I don't know, maybe like a G. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm thinking in that range. And
Okay.
there will be reviews from people saying like, I got the size F or whatever, and the
Mm-hmm.
straps were like way wider, and I'm really mad, and that's not fair. And I feel like that is really challenging, right? Because from the technical side that it's going to be so much more comfortable if the straps are
Yes.
wider, right?
Yes.
But when you want to show all of the sizes together, which I think is what should happen, I think it's so gross that you would have to go to a different department in a department store or a different
Yeah.
store altogether. You won't be able to shop with all your friends just to get your size. So I like that, right? They're trying to do that. But then it leads to this disappointment for the customers who bought the larger sizes and the straps are wider, or maybe it's like a little bit more lined on the side, or there's slightly different architecture. And like, I'm not a bra designer, but I can see why that would be necessary. It would
Right.
have to be different or you would be uncomfortable. Like the reality is like larger breasts need more support, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
you would want to change. You would want to change the design, but then the customers are unhappy. And so I feel like that's a challenge that a lot of brands face as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
even the ones who are trying to do a good job, and I think it can make it more intimidating for brands or retailers who are thinking about trying to do something like that. They're like, well, we won't get it
Yeah.
right anyway. No one will be happy.
Yeah.
So let's just
Yeah.
keep making more of the other clothes.
Exactly. Yeah, no, it's tough. It's hard, and that's a big reason why it is such an untapped market. At least people realize that before diving into it. You have some people that are just like, "Yeah, let's do it," and they know nothing.
It's
And then
terrible.
you have
Yeah.
other companies that are like terrified of going down that route of like, "Oh God, this is so complicated and hard. I don't even want to start it." So yeah, the brands that do dip their toe in the pool and are just willing to take that risk, like kudos to you. Um, it's hard. I think a good way to kind of combat this surprise of differences is to make sure, especially when we're talking about e-commerce, that we have representations on the website within the same page. Okay, I click on this tank top. Yes, the strap width might get a little wider when we get into a few bigger sizes. I know a lot of times we would make strap widths wider for bra coverage at ModCloth.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
we know, we would have it on the model and just the bra strap we showing, and we knew this is a style where we didn't want that to happen. So there are accommodations being made, but so infrequently are there multi-size representations within the same style page.
Mm-hmm.
So that really where it's lacking and where websites fail, in my opinion, is having, we have the size chart. Okay, cool. it might be like ModCloth where we have a plus size model and a reg size model on the same page. Cool. But give me more information, give me videos of this garment on the body.
Oh my God, I
Give me
know. I
a
love
more
that.
detailed size breakdown. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
let's give me more information. Like we all have the technology. The technology is there to do all of this, obviously it's more work. It's more work. More people have to get paid to make stuff like this
Mhm.
happen. Right.
Mhm.
Getting a website up, getting a style ready to be launched on a website is not super easy. There's a lot that's involved in it, but it can be done. So once again, it's kind of like a call to arms. If you're working at a company that has plus size, like let's do this better. Like let's have the representation, give me the data, give me the information. I'm not going to the mall anytime soon to try anything on. Show me what it's going to be like when I have this garment, get as close as we can to having like a virtual reality store, which will be a thing in the future. Right.
You-
But like in between, give me that information. You have it. Tell me what it is, and then I'll be more than likely to buy a pair of pants from you. Right.
yeah.
I don't know the last time I bought a pair of pants online. I hate buying pants
Oh my
online.
God, it's a nightmare. It is a
It's
nightmare.
terrible.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think it's true. All of these brands need to reevaluate the way they're running their business and spend money in a different way. I feel like
Yeah.
like it's like you were saying, like some people are like, we're adding all the sizes, but it's just this like money grab, but they don't actually
Mhm.
want to like provide a good service and experience to their customer. So then they add these extra sizes, people buy it, they hate it, they return it, they never buy again. And then it's like, oh, plus size people don't buy clothes.
Mhm.
So we're not
Yep.
going to make them anymore. And
Must be it.
must be it. I know. And it's just so ridiculous. It's infuriating. Well, do you have anything else you'd like to say about size or fit? Some wisdom for the audience?
Um, like I said, do not blame yourself. Sizing is arbitrary.
Yes.
When you
Agreed.
find something that you really like, just like everyone says, buy a bunch of it because the next time you try to go to buy it, it might be different. And
That's true. That's true. If you're like, this is
Mhm.
my uniform now, which is a great way to go, buy
Yes,
enough to last you a
yes,
couple years.
absolutely, absolutely. And
Yeah.
I encourage customers to use the platforms that we have. If more people are voicing what we've been talking about, like give us more data, give us more images, give us more pictures. We want to know what we're buying. The more e-commerce becomes the norm for everybody, even people like me that just want to go in and try it on, please just be vocal about it. Let your brands know. I think, now more than ever, the space in which brands occupy, it's like we are here to serve the customer, right? It's more so than it ever has been before.
Mhm.
So really leverage that and let these brands know that you identify with, that you believe in, that you want more from. Let them know what you want. Let them know that you want more sizing, more information, more sustainable practices, whatever that might be, because someone is listening these days. What they do with it is their
Mhm.
deal, but people are listening. So just use that soapbox as best as you can.
I agree. I think social media is it's so strange. I mean, social media has created lots of bad things too, right? But one good thing that has
Mhm.
come out of it is it's allowed us to yell directly at a brand.
Yes.
Now, some people really listen and, they react to it. Like I think about with the whole like pay up movement, brands like Gap, H&M, they were like, "Oh my god, we're getting so much pressure on social media.
Mhm.
Okay, fine, we're going to pay you. We're going to pay our
Yep.
factories, right?" Other brands are just like, "Whatever, we don't care. Here's some more new
Yep.
stuff. We're not going to respond or do anything." And I would ask you to say like to yourself like, "Hey, if these people don't actually listen to me, should I give them any more of my money?" And the answer is no, you should
No.
not. Don't
Mhm.
give money to assholes.
Yeah. And don't forget, we're in today's consciousness, things are on the front page one day and then on page 99 the next, right? So just don't forget, if we just say we get all mad at Gap for not doing something and then the next day we're like, oh wait, look, they're partnering up with Kanye West. Cool. Like
Yeah.
we can't keep doing that as consumers either. We need to stick to our guns and really make sure we hold everyone's feet to the fire.
Agreed. Hold them accountable, hold a grudge. It's hard for me because I can't even hold a grudge against like people who have wronged me in my life. I'll be like, wait, why was I mad at them? Oh, well, whatever. They should come over, and so we all need to don't hold grudges against people in your real life, but it's okay to hold a grudge against a
Yes,
brand and a retailer,
absolutely.
and you should.
100%.
Well, thank you so much, Meredith. This was delightful.
You're so welcome.
Thanks again to Meredith for being such an amazing guest. Like, she's so charismatic. Am I right? Meredith, if you're listening, I kind of think you need a podcast of your own, just saying. Or come back and do another episode with me. So I would love for that to happen. For you listeners at home, is there something that you would like to hear Meredith explain? Well, drop me an email or a DM on Instagram and I'll get her on the horn and we'll make it happen. I'm not going to say too much to end this episode because it's already really long. It's one of the great things about having a podcast is you can make it as long or short as you want. I don't have to worry about commercial breaks. Anyway, so I'll just say this. There are a lot of recurring themes that appear time and time again in these episodes as we dig more and more into the fashion industry. And one of them is greed, like all caps GREED, greed. The industry is greedy, both the retailers and the brands. It's basically like, hey, sell as much stuff as possible and make sure it's as cheap as possible to make. Profit over people, profit over the planet, profit over conscience. The cheapest materials, the lowest wages, the least regard for the environment. So it's interesting to me that despite this climate of all caps greed, that only 8% of brands are offering extended sizes. Like, don't they just want money? Because they seem to show that they just want money in every other way, right? It's almost as if they consider larger people in larger clothes to somehow be more unappealing than losing the money that they could make off of selling to these customers. It's kind of like bakers who won't make a cake for a same-sex wedding. I mean, really? Your bigotry eclipses your need to make a living? That never ceases to blow my mind. Just fucking make the cake, okay? That said, I don't want to give my money to a bakery that wouldn't make a cake for a same-sex wedding. But you know what I'm saying here. The fashion industry is essentially saying, I would rather leave billions of dollars on the table than clothe anyone larger than a size 12 or 14. Just because my sizeism runs so deep. I'm so incredibly fat phobic and shallow and shitty that I would rather lose business than serve larger customers. I mean, one more reason for us to stop giving money to assholes. Honestly, if a brand doesn't make your size, fuck them. Go somewhere else. If it's a smaller brand, it's obviously probably a different issue involving minimums and factories and cash flow. But when we look at the big players, fuck them. If a brand doesn't have models and marketing that reflect who you are, then this brand is not for you. They don't want your money, so please don't give it to them. Once again, we will never make change in this world until companies see a decline in their revenue. Your money is as powerful as your vote. So don't vote for sizist jerks. Thanks for listening to another episode of Clotheshorse. If you like what you're hearing, please rate and review on Apple Podcasts. You knew I was going to say that, right? Maybe you could even consider subscribing because then you'll never miss an episode. And please tell a friend, maybe a relative, maybe a coworker, maybe someone who's like a frenemy but you still think would benefit from hearing this. We'll take them all. Let's get more people to stop giving money to assholes, right? Do you have some feedback, an episode idea? Do you want to be a guest on Clotheshorse? Drop me a line at clothehorsepodcast@gmail.com or DM via Instagram at clothehorsepodcast. And by the way, thank you to everyone who has been sharing our Instagram posts and recommending us to friends. I said it before, I'll say it again. It really keeps me going. You have no idea how much it means to me. And I feel like this week was a big week of amazing messages, emails, reposts, and really good questions. So thank you. I love all of you. If you can't get enough of podcasts, and seriously, I'm devouring podcasts. I'm like running out of podcasts to listen to now that I'm home all the time. Then check out my other podcast, The Department. I co-host with my friend Kim. You know her from our e-commerce episodes. This week and last week, we've been talking about single-use plastic and the brands and products that are leading our march away from it by giving us better alternatives. If you're a conscious consumer, you'll love this one, but I have to tell you, we have some other great ones coming up, including some extra special celebrity guests, and we're totally working on an episode about candy. Thanks, as always, to Dustin Travis White for our music and audio support. I also just want to give him a special shout out because, as you know, I'm moving out to Lancaster County in a few weeks. Our new home is a 100-year-old farmhouse with a lot of, really strange wiring and electrical stuff going on. You know, like outlets that don't work, lights that don't work, random wires here and there. It's pretty exciting. Also, our landlord is Amish, so we kind of got to fix these things ourselves. Well, fortunately, not only can Dustin do all kinds of amazing sound stuff, he can also solve complex electrical riddles, meaning that we were finally able to get the outlet for our refrigerator working. I mean, this was like a 911 emergency for us. We were like, we can't move in if we can't use our fridge, right? I'm not going to lie. There was a point when sparks were literally flying out of the wall, but you know what? He got it working. So thank you, Dustin, for being a wizard of kind of everything. Bye.